So my husband just destroyed 4 years of my life, and I found out 3 days ago when we were supposed to be putting an offer on our dream house. The account balance was $12. 12, not 12,000, not a typo. 12 actual dollars sitting in what was supposed to be our joint savings account that I'd been dumping 60% of every single paycheck into for 4 years. Owen and I have been together for 6 years, married for 4. We live in Pittsburgh. When we got married, we had this whole conversation about wanting to buy a house in one of the neighborhoods south of the city. Something with a yard and an actual basement that wasn't flooding constantly like every rental in this area does. Owen told me he was better with money than I was, which honestly wasn't wrong at the time. I was 26 when we got married, and I'd never really thought about savings beyond having a checking account and occasionally throwing $50 into a savings account when I remembered. He showed me spreadsheets. He had this whole system worked out where if we both contributed a percentage of our income, and he managed the investments and transferred things around to maximize interest, we could have a down payment in 4 years. 60% of my paycheck. That's what he said we each needed to contribute. He'd transfer his 60% in, I'd transfer mine in, and he'd handle the rest. The account was technically joint, but he set up all the online access and managed everything. Every time I asked to see it, he'd pull up the spreadsheet and show me projections. When I asked to see the actual bank account, he'd get this look on his face like I just told him I didn't trust him. Which I guess I shouldn't have, but he'd frame it like I was being controlling or paranoid. Don't you trust me? We're married, Grace. This is our future. Why do you need to micromanage every little thing? So I didn't push it. I just kept transferring the money every 2 weeks like clockwork. 60% of every paycheck for 4 years. I did the math yesterday, and I've given him over $180,000. Do you want to know what I did with my remaining 40%? I paid for groceries, I paid for gas, I paid my half of rent and utilities. I bought the cheapest possible clothes from Target when I absolutely needed something. I brought lunch to work every single day, the same rotation of sandwiches and pasta salads because I couldn't afford to eat out. My coworkers would go to lunch at Place down the street every Friday, and I'd make excuses about needing to run errands because I couldn't spend $12 when we were saving for our house. My best friend Stacy got married 2 years ago, and I didn't go because we couldn't afford it. My parents wanted to take us on a family trip to visit my brother in Colorado last year, and I said no, because plane tickets weren't in the budget. I've been driving the same 2015 Nissan Sentra that's needed new brake pads for 6 months because I kept putting it off to save money. When my sister Violet had her baby last spring and everyone went in on this huge gift basket from Bye Bye Baby, I could only contribute $20, and I felt like such a cheap asshole about it. And Owen? Owen was making all the same sacrifices, according to him. Always talking about how hard it was, how much he wanted to take me out to nice dinners, but we had to stay focused on the goal. How he wished we could go on vacation, but the house had to come first. Every time I felt frustrated about not being able to do something, he was right there validating it. Talking about how worth it this would all be when we finally had our own place. 3 weeks ago, we found it. The perfect house. It's in Brookline, this Cape Cod-style place with 3 bedrooms and an actual yard with mature trees. The kitchen was updated, the basement was finished, there was a garage. It was listed at $340,000, which in this market is honestly reasonable. We went to see it on a Saturday afternoon, and I fell in love immediately. Owen seemed excited too. He was talking about which bedroom would be his office, how he'd set up his gaming setup in the basement, whether we should get a fence installed for when we eventually got a dog. We left that showing and I was floating. I was thinking about paint colors and where furniture would go, and finally, after 4 years of living like we were broke college students, we were going to have something to show for it. That was 3 weeks ago. I told Owen we needed to move fast because houses in that neighborhood don't stay on the market long. He agreed. He said he'd call the realtor and start the process. But then he kept putting it off. He'd say he needed to check one more thing with the bank, or he wanted to wait until after his next paycheck cleared to make sure we had the absolute maximum down payment possible. Every time I pushed, he'd have a reason why we needed to wait just a few more days. Finally, this past Saturday, I'd had enough. The house was still available, but it had been on the market for almost 3 weeks at that point, and I knew someone else was going to snatch it up. I told Owen we were calling the realtor that day and putting in an offer, and I wanted to see the bank statements so we could figure out exactly how much we had to work with. He got weird immediately, started saying he'd handle it, he'd get the statements together, I didn't need to worry about the details. But I was done waiting. I asked him to just log into the account real quick so we could see the balance and start planning. He tried to deflect again, and that's when I actually started getting suspicious. I told him to pull it up right now, or I was calling the bank myself on Monday. He got this look on his face that I've never seen before, like cornered. And then he opened his laptop and logged into the account, and I watched over his shoulder as the balance loaded. $12.37. I actually laughed at first because I thought it had to be a mistake. Like maybe he'd logged into the wrong account or something. But then I looked at the account number and it matched the one I'd been transferring money to every 2 weeks for 4 years. I asked him what the hell I was looking at. Where was the money? Did he move it to another account? He just sat there staring at the screen. I started going through the transaction history, clicking back month by month. My transfers were all there, every single one. His transfers? There were a few from the first 6 months. And then they just stopped. He hadn't contributed a cent to our supposed joint savings in over 3 years. But money was going out constantly. Transfers to checking, withdrawals, debit card transactions. I asked him where his 60% went if it wasn't going here. He said he'd been contributing. He must have been sending it to the wrong account. I asked him to show me that account then. He said he'd need to find the information. I told him to find it right now. He couldn't, obviously, because it doesn't exist. He hasn't been saving anything. He's been spending his money on whatever he wanted while I've been living like a monk thinking we were building a future together. I asked him point blank what he spent my money on. He said it went to bills. I pulled up our joint checking account where we split rent and utilities and showed him those were all paid from there, same as always. He said there were other expenses. I asked him to name one. He couldn't. Then he tried to turn it around on me. Started saying I was being aggressive. I wasn't letting him explain. This was why he didn't want to show me the account because he knew I'd overreact. I told him there were 180,000 reasons for me to be reacting, and he needed to explain where my money went or I was calling the police. That made him panic. He said I was being crazy. You can't call the police over a marital dispute, we'd figure this out. I asked him again what he spent it on, and he said he'd made some bad investments. He tried to play the stock market and lost money. He was embarrassed to tell me. He thought he could make it back. I didn't believe him for a second. Owen has never mentioned stocks or investing beyond his 401k in his entire life. I told him he was lying and he needed to tell me the truth right now. He kept insisting that was what happened. He'd made some risky trades and they didn't pan out. He was so sorry. He thought he could fix it. We fought for hours. I kept demanding details about these supposed investments and he couldn't provide any. No statements, no account information, no nothing. Just kept saying he'd explain everything later when he wasn't so overwhelmed. When I calmed down. When we could have a rational conversation. I told him I was perfectly rational and he had until Monday morning to show me bank statements and brokerage accounts proving where $180,000 went or I was filing a police report for theft. He said I was threatening him. I said no, I was promising him. That was Saturday night. It's Tuesday now. He spent all day Sunday holed up in our bedroom with his laptop. Monday, he called off work. He still hasn't shown me anything. Every time I ask, he says he's pulling the information together. It's complicated. He needs to make sure he has everything before he shows me so I don't get confused. I'm not confused, I'm pissed, and I'm done waiting for him to come up with a good enough lie. I called off work today and I'm going through every single piece of paper in this apartment. I'm logging into every account I can access. I'm getting answers whether Owen helps me or not. Because there's no way he lost that much money on bad stock trades without there being some kind of paper trail. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't think it was stocks at all. I think he's been lying to me for years and spending my money on something he knew I'd lose my mind over. I just need to figure out what. First update, guys, I found it. And it's so much worse than I thought. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my last post. Someone wrote that I should check his actual computer browser history, not just bank statements, because people are lazy and don't clear that stuff as often as they think. That comment literally changed everything. So yesterday, after I posted, I was sitting at our kitchen table with my laptop pulling up every financial document I could find. Owen was in the bedroom and had been in there since Sunday, basically hiding from me. I kept knocking on the door, asking him to show me the investment accounts. And he kept saying he was working on it, he needed more time. Could I please just give him space to get everything organized? Around 2 in the afternoon, I got tired of waiting. I went to the bedroom door and told him I needed his laptop. He asked why, and I said because I was checking the browser history to see what he'd been doing online for the past 4 years since he clearly wasn't investing our money. He actually tried to tell me that was a violation of his privacy. His privacy. After he stole almost $200,000 from me. I told him he could either give me the laptop or I could call my brother-in-law Michael, who's a cop, and ask him what my options were for getting access to it. That made Owen open the door real quick. He handed me the laptop and said I wasn't going to find anything. He already told me what happened. I was just going to waste my time and make myself more upset. I took it back to the kitchen and started going through the browser history. At first, it looked pretty normal. YouTube videos, Reddit, random Google searches. But then, I started actually paying attention to the YouTube links, and the pattern became real obvious real fast. They were all streams. Twitch streams. And not like gaming content or whatever, these were all women. Women playing games, women doing makeup tutorials, women just sitting there talking to their chat. I clicked on a few and started recognizing the usernames because they kept appearing over and over in the history. Same 5 or 6 streamers, watched for hours at a time. Sometimes he'd have the same stream open for 6, 7, 8 hours straight based on the timestamps. I'm talking every single day, multiple times a day. Then I checked his bookmarks and there they all were. Direct links to these women's Twitch channels, their Instagram accounts, their Twitter. And at the very bottom of the bookmark folder, links to Patreon pages and OnlyFans accounts. I think I sat there staring at the screen for like 10 minutes just trying to process what I was looking at. Then I went into his bank account transaction history on his laptop since he was already logged in. Started searching for the platform names, Twitch subscriptions, Twitch bits, Patreon pledges, OnlyFans payments, hundreds of them, going back years. Some of these transactions were for $5, some were for $50, some were for $200. There was one from last month for $500 to someone's Patreon. I added up just the transactions I could see from the last 3 months and it was over $18,000. $18,000, in 3 months on internet streamers. I went to the bedroom and opened the door without knocking. Owen was lying on the bed scrolling his phone and he jumped when I came in. I asked him who Mary was. He said he didn't know what I was talking about. I told him I had his browser history pulled up and I'd found his subscriptions and donations and I wanted to know who these women were. He tried to act like it was no big deal. Said yeah, he watched some streams sometimes, so what? Lots of people watch Twitch. I asked him if lots of people spend $500 a month on Twitch subscriptions. He said it wasn't that much. I was exaggerating. I showed him the transaction history, showed him the $18,000 from just the last 3 months, asked him to explain how that wasn't that much. He started saying I was attacking him for having a hobby. Everyone needs something to help them relax. I spend money on things too. I asked him what the hell I spend money on that costs $18,000 in 3 months. He couldn't answer that, so he switched tactics. Said the amounts I was seeing weren't all from our savings account, he was using his own money too. I asked him to show me his paycheck stubs then. Show me his checking account. Prove that he was paying for this with his 40% and not the 60% he was supposed to be saving. He said I was being controlling, that this was exactly why he didn't want to show me the account because he knew I'd freak out over every little purchase. I told him there was nothing little about spending our entire house fund on women who don't know he exists. That's when he told me I didn't understand how Twitch works. These women aren't just random people on the internet. They're content creators providing entertainment value. He's supporting creators he enjoys. It's no different than paying for Netflix or Spotify. I asked him if Netflix personally thanks him by name when he pays his subscription. He said that's not the point. I asked him what is the point then. He said these streamers work hard and deserve to be compensated. He's part of a community. These women appreciate his support and make him feel valued. I asked if they make him feel valued enough to be worth $180,000. He said I was twisting everything around and making it sound worse than it is. I went back to the laptop and started actually reading the chat logs that were saved in his browser. Found messages he'd sent during streams. Hundreds of messages. And they weren't just like normal chat stuff. They were weird, telling these women how beautiful they are, how they're so much prettier than other streamers, how he loves their smile, how he wishes he could take them to dinner. One of the messages said he'd been having a hard day, but seeing her stream made everything better. Another one said she was the first person he thought about when he woke up. I showed Owen the messages, asked him if he thought sending messages like that to other women while married was appropriate. He said I was taking them out of context. That's just how people talk in Twitch chat. It's not serious. Everyone says stuff like that. It's part of the culture. I asked if everyone in Twitch culture spends hundreds of dollars for these women to say their username on stream. He told me I wouldn't understand because I'm not part of that world. Then I found the OnlyFans transactions. Started searching the usernames and found that 3 of the streamers he was watching on Twitch also had OnlyFans accounts that he was subscribed to. I asked him about those. He actually had the audacity to tell me that OnlyFans isn't just adult content. Lots of creators use it for exclusive behind-the-scenes stuff and early access to content. I asked him to pull up his OnlyFans account right now and show me this exclusive behind-the-scenes content he was paying for. He refused. Said that was private and he didn't have to show me everything. I told him he spent my money on it. So yeah, actually he did have to show me. He said the money was in a joint account, so it was his money too. I reminded him that he hadn't contributed anything to that account in over 3 years. So no, it was not his money. It was my money that he stole. He kept trying to minimize it, saying I was overreacting. It wasn't as much money as I thought. He was planning to pay it back. I asked him how he was planning to pay back almost $200,000 when he was still spending thousands every month. He said he was going to cut back. He knew he'd let it get out of hand. He was going to stop. I asked him when he was planning to cut back. Before or after we were supposed to buy the house he knew we couldn't afford anymore. That's when he admitted he'd known for months we weren't going to be able to buy a house. He'd been trying to figure out how to tell me. He thought maybe if he could get a promotion at work, or if we waited another year he could build the savings back up and I'd never have to know. I asked him if he was serious right now. If he actually thought he was going to secretly save $200,000 while still spending thousands a month on internet women without me noticing. He said he didn't know, he wasn't thinking clearly, he just knew he'd messed up and he was trying to fix it. I asked him how long this had been going on. He said a couple years. I pulled up the transaction history and showed him the dates. The earliest Twitch donation I could find was from 4.5 years ago, almost exactly 6 months after we got married. He'd been doing this our entire marriage. Here's something I didn't mention in my first post because I honestly didn't think it was relevant, but someone in the comments asked if Owen had access to any of my other accounts. That question made me realize something. About 2 years ago, Owen convinced me to add him as an authorized user on my main credit card. He said it was for emergencies in case something happened and he needed to buy something when his card wasn't working. I barely used that card, just kept it for actual emergencies, so I said fine. I checked that account yesterday. He'd been using it. Not for emergencies, for the streamers. When the joint savings got low, he'd started putting charges on my credit card. There's over $12,000 on there right now. The minimum payment is $340 a month, and I had no idea, because the statements go to his email since he set up the online account access. I confronted him about the credit card too. He said he was going to pay it off before I noticed. I asked him with what money since he wasn't saving anything. He didn't have an answer, just kept saying he was sorry, he'd messed up, he'd fix it. I told him sorry doesn't pay off $12,000 in credit card debt, and it doesn't replace $180,000 he stole from our future. My sister Violet called while we were fighting, and I just broke down. Told her everything. She was livid. She wanted me to throw him out immediately, file a police report, call a lawyer. But here's the thing that makes this even more complicated. Our lease is in both our names. We're stuck here until August. Even if I wanted him gone, I can't legally force him out. And I can't afford to move out on my own because I'm broke. He spent all my savings. Violet said I could stay with her and her husband Francis, but they have a tiny 2-bedroom apartment and the baby is still in their room. There's nowhere for me to sleep except the couch. I told her I'd think about it, but honestly I'm so angry that I don't even want to leave. Why should I have to be the one who's inconvenienced when he's the one who destroyed everything? Owen's been trying to talk to me since yesterday. Keeps saying we need to figure this out together, we're married, we're supposed to be a team. I told him we stopped being a team the second he decided to spend our house fund on women who probably don't even know his real name. He said that's not fair, these women are his friends. I asked if his friends know he's married. He went quiet. I looked up one of the streamers on Instagram. She has 200,000 followers. Her comments are full of guys just like Owen, all telling her she's beautiful, all throwing money at her. I scrolled back through months of posts and found several where she's thanking her top donors. Owen's username is on 3 of them. She made special posts thanking him specifically for his support. I showed him the posts. Asked him if it was worth it. If having some random woman on the internet thank him by his username was worth losing his marriage and his chance at ever owning a home. He told me I was being cruel, that I don't understand how lonely he's been. I asked him how he could possibly be lonely when he's married to someone who's been living with him every single day for 6 years. That's when he told me I'm not really there even when I'm there. I'm always at work or tired or talking to my family. These women actually pay attention to him. They respond to his messages. They remember details about his life. They make him feel important. I told him they make him feel important because he pays them to. That's literally their job. He said it's not like that, these connections are real. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to pack a bag and leave even if it means sleeping on Violet's couch. But the bigger part of me is so angry that I refuse to be the one who has to uproot my life. He's the one who screwed up. He should be the one dealing with consequences. But I also can't stand being in the same apartment with him right now. And I still don't know exactly how much money he spent. The joint savings account is gone, the credit card has $12,000 on it, but I feel like there's more I haven't found yet. I'm terrified to look at my credit report because what if he opened other cards in my name? What if there's more debt I don't even know about? Someone in the comments suggested I go to the bank in person and get full transaction records for the account. I'm planning to do that tomorrow. I want every single transaction printed out so I can see exactly where every penny went. Owen keeps saying I should just let it go. We need to focus on moving forward. But I'm not letting this go until I know the full extent of what he did. I'll update again after I go to the bank. This is such a nightmare. Last update. Shout out to the commenter who told me to request every transaction detail, including memos and recipient information. The bank lady looked at me funny when I said I needed a complete record going back 4 years, but she printed everything. It took 40 minutes and came out to 273 pages. I sat in my car in the bank parking lot and started reading. Every single deposit I made was there, every 2 weeks like clockwork for 4 years. Owen's deposit stopped after month 7. I already knew that part. What I didn't know was how systematic his spending had been. He wasn't just randomly donating to streamers when he felt like it, he had a schedule. Every month there were the same recurring charges. Tier 3 Twitch subscriptions to 5 different channels at $25 each. Patreon pledges to 4 different creators at $50 each minimum. 3 OnlyFans subscriptions at $30 each. That's over $500 a month just in recurring subscriptions before any additional donations or bits or tips. Then there were the extra charges. Donations during streams that ranged from $5 to $500. I added up the total from just the printouts. $192,740. Almost $200,000 spent on women who stream video games and post pictures on the internet. But here's the thing that made me lose it completely. There was a separate section of transactions that caught my attention because they were all to the same recipient, not Twitch or Patreon or OnlyFans. Direct bank transfers to someone named Elaine Ramos. 20 transfers over the past year and a half, ranging from $200 to $800 each. Total of $7,000 sent directly to this person. I drove home and Owen was in the living room watching TV like nothing was wrong. I threw the bank statements at him and they scattered everywhere. Asked who the hell Elaine Ramos was. He looked at the papers and went completely white. Told me it was nobody, just someone he owed money to. I asked him why he owed some random woman $7,000. He said it was complicated and he didn't want to talk about it. I told him we were talking about it right now or I was posting every single transaction on social media with his full name attached. He tried to grab the papers from me and I shoved them in his face. Told him I had copies, I had everything, and he needed to explain who this woman was and why he'd been sending her money. That's when he finally broke down. Told me Elaine is one of the streamers, one of his favorites. About 2 years ago, she was having financial problems and mentioned it on stream. Said she might have to quit streaming because she couldn't afford her rent. Owen sent her $500. She thanked him on stream, sent him a private message thanking him personally, Told him he was such a kind person and she appreciated him so much. After that, he kept sending money whenever she mentioned needing something. New computer because hers was dying, help with medical bills, car repairs. He sent her money for all of it because she'd told him he was the most generous person in her community, and she didn't know what she'd do without supporters like him. I lost it. Started screaming at him that he was the most pathetic man I'd ever met in my entire life, that he actually fell for the oldest scam on the internet, that this woman was playing him and he was too stupid to see it. He tried to defend her, said she wasn't like that, she really needed help. I asked him how many other sad, pathetic men she was telling the exact same thing to. How many other idiots were sending her rent money while she laughed at them. He got in my face and told me I didn't understand their relationship. They talked all the time. She told him about her life, her problems, her dreams. He was helping someone he cared about. I shoved him back and asked if this someone he cared about knew he was married. He said it had never come up. Never came up. In 2 years of talking all the time, it never came up that he had a wife at home eating ramen for dinner so he could send money to some girl with a ring light and a gaming chair. I asked him how it never came up, and he admitted he didn't mention me because his personal life wasn't relevant to their friendship. I told him his personal life was relevant because he was using marital funds to financially support another woman. He said I was making it sound worse than it was, he was just helping a friend. I asked if his friend Elaine knew his real name or if she only knew him as whatever his username was. He admitted she only knew the username, didn't know his real name, didn't know where he lived, didn't know he was married, didn't know anything about him, except that he had a credit card that worked. I looked up Elaine's Twitch channel right there on my phone. She had 40,000 followers. Her Discord had a whole section for top donors with special roles and access. Owen's username was listed in the highest tier. I showed him the screen and asked if he was proud of himself. If being in the top tier of simps for some internet stranger made him feel like a big man. He tried to take my phone and I yanked it away. Told him he didn't get to touch my stuff anymore since he'd already stolen everything else. We fought for hours. He kept insisting that these relationships were real and meaningful, that I was being judgmental about something I didn't understand, that online friendships are just as valid as in-person ones. I asked him if online friendships are still valid when they cost your marriage and your future. He said our marriage was already struggling anyway, I just hadn't noticed because I was never emotionally available. I threw a couch pillow at him, asked him what the hell he was talking about. He said I was always busy with work or my family, that we hadn't been intimate in months, that he felt invisible in his own home. I reminded him that we hadn't been intimate because I was exhausted from working full-time while living on 40% of my income, thinking we were saving for our future. That I spent time with my family because they are important to me. That if he felt invisible, maybe he should have communicated that instead of spending our life savings on internet strangers who wouldn't know him if he walked past them on the street. He told me he tried to communicate, but I never listened. I asked when. When did he try to tell me he was unhappy? He couldn't give me specific examples, just kept saying I should have known. I should have noticed he was struggling. I got right in his face and told him I couldn't read his mind, and if he was struggling, he needed to use his words like an adult instead of stealing money and lying for 4 years like a coward. Then my parents got involved because I'd told my mom everything the day before, and she was done being patient. She called Owen directly while we were standing there fighting, put him on speaker at her house with my dad there. My mom asked him point blank how he could do this to me. Owen tried to explain about the streamers and the community and feeling valued, and my dad started yelling. Owen tried to defend himself. Told my parents that their daughter wasn't perfect either, that our marriage had problems before any of this started. My mom asked what problems. He said I was distant and cold and never made him feel appreciated. My mom told him that if he felt unappreciated, maybe he shouldn't have given away $200,000 that would have made his wife's dream of owning a home come true. That maybe if he'd spent even half the energy he put into commenting on Twitch streams into actually talking to his wife, we wouldn't be having this conversation. My dad asked if Owen planned to pay the money back. Owen said he was working on it, but it would take time. My dad asked how much time. Owen said he didn't know, maybe a few years. My dad told him he had 60 days to come up with a plan to repay at least half, or they were helping me file a police report and a divorce. Owen started stammering that you can't file a police report over marital finances. That's not how it works. My dad told him to try him and find out. After the call, Owen completely changed his approach. Suddenly he was apologetic, saying he understood why everyone was upset, he knew he'd messed up. But then he started trying to negotiate. Said if we sold some of our stuff, we could pay off the credit card. If we both got second jobs, we could start rebuilding savings. If we stayed together and worked as a team, we could get through this. I asked him if he was actually insane, if he genuinely thought I was going to stay married to him and work a second job to rebuild the savings he destroyed while he sat around watching Twitch streams. He said marriages go through rough patches, people make mistakes, but we took vows, for better or worse. I told him the vows also included forsaking all others, and he'd been having emotional affairs with half a dozen women for our entire marriage, while I was at home thinking we were a team. He insisted they weren't affairs. He never met any of them in person, never had physical contact, never even video chatted with most of them. It was just online interaction, just entertainment. I asked him if he'd feel the same way if I'd spent $200,000 on male streamers and sent them messages about how handsome they were and how I thought about them when I woke up. If I'd been telling random men on the internet that they made my day better and I wished I could take them to dinner. He got quiet, then told me that would be different. I asked how. He stumbled over his words for a minute before saying it just would be. I told him he was a hypocrite and a liar and a pathetic excuse for a husband, and I was done having this conversation. My sister Violet came over the next day while Owen was at work. She brought her husband Francis and they helped me pack everything I could fit in my car. Clothes, toiletries, my important documents, my laptop. I took photos of everything in the apartment. Left Owen a note saying I was staying with Violet and he could have the apartment until the lease was up, but I wanted my half of the security deposit. Owen came home while I was loading the last boxes. Started freaking out asking where I was going. We needed to talk about this. I was making a rash decision. Francis physically stepped between us and told Owen to back off. Owen tried to go around him to get to me and Francis just stood there blocking him. Told him if he touched me or my stuff there would be a problem. I told him I'd spent 4 years sacrificing everything for our future, while he was spending my money on women who didn't know his real name. That I'd skipped my best friend's destination wedding, didn't go on vacation with my family, drove around with bad breaks for months, ate the same cheap meals every single day, all because I thought we were building something together. And the whole time he was living however he wanted, spending money on whatever he wanted, while making me think we were in this together. While making me feel bad about wanting to spend money on anything because we had to save for the house. He tried to say he was struggling too. He had his own problems, his own needs. I told him everyone has problems and needs, but most people don't steal from their spouse to deal with them. Most people don't lie to their partner's face every single day for 4 years. Most people don't watch their wife stress about money while they're dropping $300 on a birthday donation to someone who probably has 15 other guys doing the exact same thing. Francis said we needed to go. Violet was already in her car with the baby. Owen followed me to my car still talking, still begging. Said he'd cancel all the subscriptions, he'd delete all the accounts, he'd never talk to any of those women again. He'd get a second job, a third job, whatever it took. Just please don't leave. Please give him a chance to make this right. I asked him why the hell he thought he deserved a chance when he'd spent 4 years lying to me every single day, when he'd stolen from me, when he'd prioritized internet strangers over his own wife. He said because marriage means not giving up when things get hard. I told him I didn't give up. I spent 4 years working toward our future while he pissed it away. He gave up. He gave up the second he decided his online friends were more important than his actual wife standing right in front of him. He tried to grab my arm and Francis shoved him back hard, told him to get inside before this got physical. Owen looked at me and asked if I was really doing this, if I was really throwing away 6 years together. I told him he threw it away. Every time he clicked donate, every time he subscribed, every time he sent a message to another woman telling her she was beautiful or special or deserved the world. Every single transaction was him choosing them over me, over us, over our future. He started saying I was exaggerating. It wasn't like that. I was making it sound more dramatic than it was. I opened my phone and pulled up the bank statements I'd photographed. Started reading his donation memos out loud right there in the parking lot. The birthday wishes, the compliments, the personal messages. By the third one, he was telling me to stop. People could hear. I told him good. Let everyone hear what kind of husband he was. Let the neighbors know. Let his co-workers know. Let everyone know that Owen spent his wife's house fund on internet girlfriends. Violet honked the horn. Francis told Owen one more time to go inside. I got in my car and Owen just stood there in the parking lot watching me leave. Didn't go inside until I'd driven away. I've been at Violet's for 3 days now. The couch is uncomfortable and the baby wakes up crying twice a night, but it's better than being in that apartment with Owen. He's been texting constantly. Long paragraphs about how sorry he is, how he'll change, how he needs me. Yesterday he sent me screenshots showing he'd canceled his Twitch subscriptions like that's supposed to fix 4 years of theft and lies. I'm meeting with a lawyer next week, filing for divorce. I know people think I should try counseling, but I'm not interested in salvaging this. You don't come back from this level of betrayal. He didn't make a mistake. He made thousands of deliberate choices over 4 years to steal from me and lie to my face. The house in Brookline sold last week. Someone else is living my dream. And I'm on my sister's couch because my husband decided internet validation was more important than building a real life with an actual human being who loved him. Owen texted this morning saying Elaine is taking a break from streaming for mental health reasons. I told him Elaine doesn't give a single damn about him, and she's probably taking a break because her main cash cow stopped paying. That she's probably already moved on to some other lonely guy who's easier to manipulate. Then I blocked his number. I'm done. With him, with this situation, with all of it. Time to figure out what my life looks like when I'm not funding someone else's fantasy while sacrificing my own.